Forethought at 4. It's great to be with you. I don't know how you're getting on with the extended lockdown, but I hope that you're still in good spirits. Some of you may have been doing reading over this extended period of time. And if you have, maybe you're doing the old classics. One of the old classics is Alice in Wonderland. I don't know if you've ever read it. It's an interesting book. But there's this interaction between the Cheshire Cat, that's the cat with the big smile, and Alice in the Alice in Wonderland, where Alice goes up to the Cheshire Cat and she says to the Cheshire Cat, "Would you please tell me which way I ought to go?" And the Cheshire Cat looks at her and says, "Well, it depends. Where do you want to get to?" She says, "I don't really mind where I get to." To which the Cheshire Cat replies, "Well, then it doesn't really make much of a difference which way you go." It's an interesting interaction between the two of them, but I think it points us to something quite interesting for us at the moment in everything that's going on. A lot of us before coronavirus were looking at our lives and kind of maybe thinking a little bit like, surely my life must be have more purpose to it than this. Or maybe we felt a little bit like the busyness and the struggle of everyday life was keeping us away or stopping us from really being able to achieve what we wanted to achieve. Our normal seemed to be rubbing against what we really wanted to do. And then we went into this lockdown where for most of us, our normal got disrupted. It meant that our normal kind of had to change and was put out. And 4 weeks into the lockdown, many of us are craving to return back to the normal before the new normal we find ourselves into. And I think that there's a paradox in that, because for so many of us, the normal we were in was preventing us from achieving the purpose we really wanted to move into. And now the normal we find ourselves in, which is different to the normal we were in, seems to also be stopping us from being able to move into the purpose that we want to. And so we end up feeling like we can't really live the life that we were built for. No matter what you think about it, if you really want to change, there's only one key variable in it. You need to decide to change. I mean, it's interesting, if the last 4 or 5 weeks have shown us anything, it's simply that for most of us, a changing circumstance doesn't actually produce the change that we want. And so I was kind of thinking about, in a season of change, how do you change when there seems to be no change happening? And I thought of 3 things that may help you be able to just start navigating this area of change. So if you're watching this, hopefully you find this helpful. You may want to write it down, but you don't feel like you need to. But here's the first thing. You need to really define what it is that you want to change. As some of us are locked up at home, and maybe you're doing homeschooling, or you find yourself working from home, this is a great time to build a habit of writing things down or starting to journal. Journaling is so important because it helps to bring clarity to a lot of the thoughts and chaos that's inside of our minds. And as it begins to bring clarity to the thoughts and chaos, it can begin to highlight those things which we begin to go, wow, this really needs to change. It helps us to understand some of those things in our lives, in the old normal pattern that we were in, that need to potentially shift and become different. And the more you write down, the more clarity you're going to get. But you need to begin to define quite clearly what things you want to change, or else you may spend this whole time kind of craving to get back to the normality of life that also seemed to not allow you to really get to the purpose that you were built for. But once you've got clarity and you've maybe written some things down that you need to change, the second step is this, is you need to create a process. You need to kind of plan out a way to begin to shift, to start to do some of the things that you really want to begin to do and you really want to begin to move into. I know that I talk about this a lot, but beginning to build good habits is so important to our lives and to how we live our lives. I would really encourage you that once you've got clarity on the things you need to change, is to start to build small practices that help you begin to move to do those things. I was thinking about this. Some people have been talking about wanting to cook healthier, and with all of the takeouts shut down and no one can buy the kind of food, a lot of people are being forced into having to cook at home. And you may be going, actually one of the big changes in my life is I want to eat healthier. Well, what a great time to begin to make a process where you go, step 1, I'm going to maybe get some recipes off the internet. Step 2, I'm going to buy the ingredients. Step 3, I'm going to work out how to put those ingredients together and teach myself how to eat healthier by cooking myself my own meals and cooking it healthier. Small little tiny steps, but can have a massive impact. And so once you've got clarity from writing things down of what you want to change, I'd encourage you to just spend some time writing through a process, putting a process in place of how you can change those things that you want to change. But here's the hardest part. Once you've written it down, once you've got the process, you need to then actually go and do the process. You need to actually start to put those things into place. Because circumstance isn't going to change you. The last 4 or 5 weeks have shown us that. And the normality that you were in before wasn't producing the outcome potentially that you were after. You have to choose to change. And the only way you do that is by actually beginning to change. I received an email from some newsletter that I've subscribed to, and it had a quote of this author, Dave Hollis. And in it he wrote this. He said, "In the rush to return to normal, maybe we should be using this time to consider which parts of normal are worth returning to." I love that quote. So many of us want to return to our normality, but we're right now in a unique opportunity where we can begin to look at those things in our lives that were normal and actually take from them what was good but leave behind what was bad, and begin to make some changes and actions that we need to now. I hope you guys are doing well. We miss being with you. We miss being in the same room together. We miss being able to see you all. We're praying for you, and we look forward to being with you again. But do join us online. There are many things happening across Sunnyhill that you can find out about. Outside of that, I hope that you have a great rest of your day.